Imagine this: a brilliant general, hailed as one of the greatest heroes of the American Revolution, suddenly turns against everything he fought for. At the height of the war, he plots to hand over the key to victory to the enemy, for money and a title. One decision that could have crushed the dream of independence forever. This is the incredible true story of Benedict Arnold, America's most infamous traitor. Stay with me as we uncover how heroism turned to betrayal and the dramatic consequences that followed. Welcome to History Page. In the flickering dawn of a young nation fighting for its life, one man rose as a symbol of courage and daring. His name was Benedict Arnold, and for a time, he embodied the fierce spirit of the American Revolution. But behind the hero's facade lay a story of ambition, resentment, and a betrayal so profound that it would echo through history as the ultimate act of treason. This is the tale of America's forgotten traitor, a gripping saga of loyalty tested, power corrupted, and the heavy price of choices that can never be undone. Picture the year 1775. The American colonies were ablaze with the fire of independence. Tensions with Britain had boiled over into open conflict after years of taxation without representation and growing calls for liberty. In the bustling streets of New Haven, Connecticut, a prosperous merchant and captain named Benedict Arnold heard the call to arms. Arnold was no ordinary man. Bold, ambitious, and fiercely independent, he had already made a name for himself through daring trade ventures across the seas and a reputation for unyielding resolve in the face of challenges. When the shots rang out at Lexington and Concord, marking the true beginning of armed resistance, Arnold wasted no time. He joined the Continental Army and quickly proved his worth, driven by a deep sense of duty to the emerging cause of freedom. His early exploits were the stuff of legend and helped ignite hope in a desperate fight. In May of 1775, Arnold led a daring raid alongside Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys to capture Fort Ticonderoga from the British. It was a stunning victory that provided much-needed artillery for the colonial cause, cannons that would later prove instrumental in forcing the British evacuation of Boston. But Arnold's greatest moments were yet to come. In 1776, facing a powerful British invasion down Lake Champlain, he orchestrated a valiant naval stand with a makeshift fleet. Though outnumbered, his strategic brilliance and personal bravery delayed the enemy advance for crucial weeks, buying precious time for the fledgling American forces to regroup and prepare. His actions earned him deep respect from General George Washington himself, who recognized in Arnold a fighting general of rare determination and skill, one willing to risk everything for the dream of a free nation. By 1777, Arnold's star had risen even higher amid the smoke and uncertainty of war. At the pivotal Battle of Saratoga in upstate New York, he displayed tactical genius and raw courage that helped turn the tide of the entire conflict. Despite suffering a serious wound to the leg, a painful injury that would trouble him for the rest of his life, Arnold rallied troops in the heat of battle, leading charges that contributed decisively to the surrender of British General Burgoyne. This victory was monumental, not just on the battlefield, but in the halls of international diplomacy. It convinced France to formally ally with the Americans, bringing crucial troops, supplies, and naval support that would prove vital to the revolution's ultimate success. Washington praised Arnold's valor publicly, and for a shining moment, it seemed as though Benedict Arnold's place in history would be secured as one of the Revolution's greatest heroes, a man whose name would inspire generations. Yet, beneath the surface of these triumphs, cracks were quietly forming in Arnold's loyalty. He was a man of deep pride and towering ambition, qualities that had fueled his successes but also left him vulnerable. Arnold had poured his personal fortune and physical health into the cause, often funding supplies and equipment for his troops out of his own pocket when Congress fell short. But recognition and promotions from the Continental Congress were slow, grudging, and often passed over him in favor of others he considered less deserving. Financial strains mounted as debts accumulated, and whispers of misconduct or financial impropriety followed him, though many at the time viewed these as politically motivated attacks by rivals. Wounded both physically and in spirit, Arnold married the young and elegant Peggy Shippen in 1779. She was a woman of Philadelphia high society with connections that, unknown to most, would later influence his path. As Arnold took command in Philadelphia, resentment simmered deeply within him. He felt underappreciated and overlooked by the very nation he had risked everything to defend, his sacrifices seemingly forgotten amid the politics of war. This setup of extraordinary heroism mixed with growing personal discontent laid the foundation for one of the most dramatic twists in American history. In the summer of 1780, General Washington, still placing full trust in Arnold's proven abilities, granted him command of the strategic fortress at West Point along the Hudson River. Washington viewed West Point as the key to the entire American defense, the vital linchpin that prevented British forces from splitting the colonies in two and isolating New England. Arnold now held immense power and responsibility over this critical stronghold. But unknown to Washington and the broader Continental Army, Arnold had already begun secret negotiations with the British, driven by his accumulated grievances and a desire for the recognition and reward he felt he deserved. The rising tension built slowly but relentlessly, like a storm gathering force on the horizon. For months, coded messages passed back and forth between Arnold and British Major John Andre. Arnold demanded a substantial sum, £20,000 sterling, and a high-ranking commission in the British Army in exchange for surrendering West Point and its vital plans. He deliberately began weakening the fort's defenses, scattering troops, and sharing critical intelligence with the enemy. The plot was meticulously crafted over time, involving careful coordination and hidden communications. If successful, it could have delivered a devastating blow to the American cause, potentially leading to the capture of key leaders, including Washington himself, and crippling the momentum of the revolution at a precarious moment. As September 1780 unfolded, the stakes reached a fever pitch of suspense and danger. Arnold met secretly with Andre to finalize the treacherous details near the Hudson River. The young British officer carried incriminating documents hidden in his boot, detailed maps, troop dispositions, and correspondence that laid bare the full extent of the treason. Tension mounted intensely as Andre attempted to return safely to British lines, but fate intervened in a way that no one could have predicted. American militiamen on patrol captured Andre near Tarrytown. When the papers were discovered during a search, the full horror of Arnold's betrayal came crashing into the light, sending shockwaves through the American command. The twist and payoff hit like thunder on a clear day. When news reached Arnold at West Point, he was in the midst of hosting none other than General Washington and his aides for breakfast. As Washington toured the fortifications, unsuspecting of the danger, word arrived of Andre's capture and the damning evidence against his trusted general. Arnold's composure shattered in that moment of realization. He fled immediately, making a desperate escape by rowing to a waiting British warship on the Hudson River. Washington, upon learning the devastating truth, was stunned and heartbroken. Reports say he exclaimed in disbelief, "Whom can we trust now?" The man he had admired as one of his finest generals had turned traitor at the moment of greatest need, threatening the very foundation of the fight for independence. Andre, tried fairly as a spy under the rules of war, faced execution by hanging on October 2, 1780. His dignified and composed end stood in stark contrast to Arnold's flight into exile. Arnold, now commissioned as a brigadier general in the British Army, received only a fraction of his promised financial reward. He led several raids against his former countrymen in Virginia and Connecticut, but these efforts brought him little lasting glory and only deepened his infamy among Americans. In the eyes of the new nation, Benedict Arnold had become the very embodiment of betrayal. His name would forever be synonymous with treason, a word uttered with contempt and disappointment across the land. The consequences unfolded with unrelenting weight and lasting impact over the years that followed. After the war ended in American victory, Arnold and his family sought refuge in England. There, he was received with polite formality by King George III and some Loyalist sympathizers, but he was largely shunned and distrusted by many British officers who viewed a turncoat with suspicion. His attempts at new merchant ventures in Canada and later London brought ongoing financial struggles rather than the prosperity he had hoped for. The man who had once dreamed of glory and reward found himself haunted by the irreversible choices of his past, living out his days in relative obscurity. He died in London on June 14, 1801, at the age of 60, largely forgotten by the world and disdained even by many of those he had tried to serve. His devoted wife, Peggy, remained loyal to the end, working tirelessly to settle his debts and provide some measure of stability and dignity for their children amid the hardships. Reflecting on this story today, we see far more than just the dramatic fall of one talented but flawed individual. Benedict Arnold's Betrayal reminds us of the fragile nature of trust, especially in times of great national upheaval and personal trial. His early heroism illustrates how even the most capable leaders can be undone by unchecked pride, simmering resentment, and the lure of personal gain over collective good. Yet the revolution succeeded despite his treason, standing as a powerful testament to the resilience of the American cause and the steadfast dedication of countless patriots who chose loyalty and principle over self-interest. In our modern world, where questions of integrity, leadership, and loyalty are constantly tested in both public and private life, Arnold's tale serves as a timeless cautionary lesson. True and lasting legacy is never built on fleeting rewards or personal glory alone, but on the enduring values of honor, duty, sacrifice, and commitment to something greater than oneself. The young nation he once fought for went on, against all odds, to forge a constitution and a future rooted firmly in principles of liberty, justice, and self-governance. Arnold's name lives on not as that of a hero, but as a solemn warning. A forgotten traitor whose story powerfully underscores that while betrayal may promise short-term advantages, its long shadow lingers across generations, shaping how we remember and learn from the past. In the end, the revolution's hard-won victory proved that the unbreakable spirit of freedom could withstand even the deepest wounds inflicted from within. And that, perhaps, remains the most enduring and inspiring payoff of this cautionary chapter in our shared history. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most dramatic tales of betrayal and consequence, hit that like button, subscribe to History Page, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next gripping story. What other forgotten figures or betrayal sagas from history would you like to hear about? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. We read every one. Thanks for watching History Page, where the past comes alive with lessons that still matter today. Until next time, stay curious and remember, history isn't just what happened, it's why it still echoes.